welcome back to another episode of Movie Night here on the Anarax Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Samee Ramirez, and today we're talking about Black Widow. I am so excited to talk about this movie. I kind of want Dom, my guest, also welcome Dom, my guest.
Hello, how's it going?
I don't want you to go first. Go ahead and introduce yourself and then go ahead and go into your thoughts.
Introduce myself and go into my thoughts on Black Widow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All
I want
right.
you to go first this time.
Okay, we can do that. Okay, so here, hello, I'm Dom. I've been holding back spoilers on this movie for a long time, and I can't wait to talk about it. Because there's a lot of thoughts that I have on this, and a lot of things that a lot of people are going to disagree with me on, and that's okay. That's usually how this goes, right?
So I always have the hot takes. I know, I get that.
So many people are going to disagree with me on this movie. But I love this movie so much. This movie was awesome, and it's, to me, a top 5 MCU movie, easily. I don't know why this is getting, it's not getting, the lowest of ratings, but it's getting a lot lower than it should be, and a lot of people are having a lot more problems with this movie than they should be. If you ask me. Right. Everybody's got an opinion, everybody's entitled, and I get that, but if you ask me when it comes to the standard of what I think that these movies should be, this movie just hits a lot of the great points of that. You can go listen to my non-spoiler review. You'll see I don't have a lot of problems with this movie. There's not a lot of gripes that I have. It's not my favorite MCU movie, no. But it's not one of the lesser ones. A lot of people I've seen have been trying to make it one of those. And if you ask me, this was too incredible to be that. And I had more fun with this Marvel movie than I think I have with so many other Marvel movies seeing them in the theater. And this was just a great, excellent time. And a lot of the genre of the film that they tried to go for was a lot of the things that I like in general. It's very grounded with the way it's done. It's this very gritty, action style movie. It doesn't feel over the top, fantastical type stuff, which I like, but not. I would prefer when it comes to my Marvel movies, we get this more grounded tone and darker tone and things like that. And while this has a lot of humor in it, it's not completely overdone humor. There's a couple spots where I was like, okay, maybe you couldn't have made a joke there just because I would have liked that heavier moment to play out, but I didn't have a lot of those complaints this time around. You know what I mean? It did that Marvel thing where it has to make a joke in a heavy moment from time to time, but for the most part, it works. I thought that all the humor was very well placed. I thought it was just extremely entertaining. I think David Harbour absolutely destroyed in this movie, and I was so happy to see that because Hellboy was not a bad going for him. I mean, it was just not bad. It was not good for him. I mean, that Hellboy was a very bad property for him to come out in when it comes to a superhero film. So for him to get this kind of, in my opinion, redemption in this movie was great to see. And I was very nervous about him in this movie. It's not that I don't like David Harbour. I do. I just did not want them to make him a brute for brute's sake. You know what I mean? But which they kind of did, but there's so much more backstory around it that it makes it more he's so much more of a colorful character than you would think. So I just really enjoyed that about it, and I think that Rachel Weisz just as well. Honestly, not as much to do as David Harbour for sure. David Harbour is definitely a standout next to her, but that's just because he has more to do in terms of the story. She's still very good though, and there's some really great stuff. Scarlett Johansson, this is her best performance as Black Widow, 100% hands down. I think that this was the way to go out. Honestly, I see why they did this movie. A lot of people are saying there's no point in this movie, and I'm there's a lot of point to this movie because Scarlett Johansson. It was cool to kind of look forward knowing that she died. This isn't if this was one of those movies that was made to try to justify the fact that she came back from the dead later on. I would have been pretty upset, but that's not what this movie does. This movie is her swan song. in a great way. It really gives us closure on her death. It lets us get one more chance to spend time with this character in the best outing that she's ever had, in my opinion, as this character. I was so thrilled with her acting in the movie, and you could tell that she was just very passionate about doing this one, and it was a wonderful, wonderful story. All that said, Florence Pugh, if nothing else, is the reason you go see this movie. I loved Yelena Belova. She is an incredible addition to the MCU. And when I say that, I don't mean I don't want to say that to downplay Scarlett Johansson's performance, because it is the best one of all of her performances in this universe. But we've seen her play that character before. It's nothing new. Right. This is the newest, most exciting addition is Florence Pugh, in my opinion. And it's a reason to go see it. I would be very surprised if anybody walked out of this unless you were a complete, if you were just completely sexist against women. I'd be very surprised if you walked out of this and were not excited about Florence Pugh's addition to this. And the performance that she gave is top notch. And a lot of this, the other thing I want to say too, and I know I'm like,
do you have incentive to watch Little Women now?
I have incentive to watch a lot of things now. I mean, the thing is yeah, I've seen Florence Pugh movies, and I've always liked her. I mean, Midsommar and Outlaw King, and then what was the other? Fighting with My Family. She's great in all three of those.
Fighting with My Family is really good too.
Exactly, and she's phenomenal in those movies. But this was she fit right in. You know what I mean? You can sometimes they Marvel really likes to grab the hot new and up and coming actor from the indie world. They do that all the time, and sometimes, a lot of the times, that's pretty good. But I don't know if I've ever seen it this good. To where it's they just fit right into this world, and they just brought it. And I really mean that wholeheartedly. And this is one of these movies that it's not just a great MCU film. It's one that I'm genuinely gonna watch a lot in my life. I'm gonna put this MCU movie on more than a lot of them, because
it's very rewatchable.
It's very rewatchable. It's got a lot of rewatch value, and the action is very top notch. It's a very well shot movie. Every time there was an action scene on the screen, I was sitting there yes, thank you, because I like a lot of these TV shows, and they've had some great action scenes, but none of the filmmakers in the streaming series have been able to hit quite the level that they have in a film yet. And Black Widow was definitely a return to form in that. Their action shots were top notch and wonderful. And it kind of reminded me of Mission Impossible in a lot of ways, but I don't mean that as a bad thing. It's kind of one of those things that Marvel just hasn't really touched on yet. They did I mean, some people are going to point to Captain America Winter Soldier. I look at that as it's similar in the grounded style of it, but it's a little bit more of a political thriller. This felt a lot more like a spy thriller. And I think that's the extra thing that it adds to the universe that we just haven't really seen yet. And on top of that, it's what would I say about it? I mean, it's just it's well executed, yes, but it's more than that. It's everything about this movie feels new. You know what I mean? It really does. It feels like it's something I haven't seen before in this world. Most things, I should say. A lot of it. It has its own very particular tone to it. It really does. Despite I know a lot of people are going to make comparisons to Winter Soldier, and that's cool. But it's not, in my opinion.
It's different.
Yeah, I think it just has its own particular thing, and just I mean this wholeheartedly. I'm not just saying this because it's one of those things I think I'm supposed to say when watching a movie like this. I know a lot of people would probably think to do this anyway, but the girl power was off the charts in this. I'm serious. That's one of the highlights of the movie. Yeah.
And here's the thing about while we're on the subject of girl power, we'll talk about it now, because here's the thing.
Well, what'd you think of the movie?
Oh my god. Because I had you go first, because I know
you told me you liked it, but I don't know how much. To what extent, I guess.
Oh my god. This was everything that I've been asking for
I kind
in
of
a
agree.
Marvel movie.
I kind of agree.
This is everything I wanted Captain Marvel to be. This is everything I wanted the Wonder Woman
Yeah.
movies to be. This was everything I ever wanted for Black Widow since the moment I saw her. Because here's the thing, I did always like Black Widow. I like her scene in the first Avengers movie in the chair thing. Always thought that was incredible. Scarlett Johansson, I always liked her as an actress.
Yeah.
But oh my god, this movie,
It's great.
I echo everything that you said 100%.
Okay.
I can't say enough about this movie. I just can't. I mean, it's funny because we talked a lot about the male gaze in our Fast 9 review, and that's just been a thing on my mind recently. And talking
There's none
about
of
Loki,
that here.
which yeah. Well, here's my thing. And we were talking about how Loki is also filmed in the female gaze, and I think that's probably why it's so good. We were just talking about how that's right now our favorite of the Marvel series, and I think all of the Marvel series have been directed by women, at least partially, I believe.
I think you're right.
Also as well.
Yes, all three. No, the first one was not. Sorry, WandaVision was not, but the other two.
I think it was written. I think there was a female on the writing.
There's a female on the writing team, yeah.
Yes.
But it was actually.
But like Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki, directed by women, and like, I was just like, guys, this is what I'm talking. Nothing but good comes from the female gaze, guys. It was just so all of the characters I felt were so. There's my overall thing was it just felt so real in the fact that the characters felt like real people, and it was so beautiful that they were badass women, and they didn't feel like stereotypes of what a badass woman should be like how Black Widow has been in all the other Avengers movies. They just were, you know what I mean? They weren't fulfilling a stereotype. They just were people, and that's just how they were. It was beautiful, and the message of them. I feel like the theme of the movie, I feel like can be summed up in like it's very important for people to make their own choices in their life, which is at the end of the day, it's you know what I mean for the larger scale that women have just not for so long in history have not been able to make their own choices in the world. And it's taken to the extreme for the Red Room and for the widows and everything, but that still happens. That human trafficking is still real, you know what I mean? But for like me, just a regular woman in America, like that still impacted me. That impacts, I feel like, every woman. That's a universal thing. You feel like you don't have the right to make your own choices, and that's the theme of this movie. Oh my god. This movie was everything.
I know.
I want to go to a lecture on this movie because this is what I've been talking about. This is what I wanted Captain Marvel to be. This is what I've always wanted. Yeah. I am obsessed with this movie, honestly.
I couldn't agree more in a lot of ways. I mean, I know like one of the crazy...
And I have a point on the girl power I just remembered.
For sure. Well, one of the things that I hear like nitpicked about with this movie, or griped about, I should say, more or less, is the fact that there are no stakes. And I wouldn't say, okay, so there's two things to that. Number one, it's not that there's no stakes.
For who?
It's not that there's no stakes. Because...
Natasha, there's some big ass stakes.
Well,
Yelena, there's some big ass stakes.
With Natasha, I agree with people. Because with Natasha, we know when she dies. So there's not really stakes when it comes to that. But Yelena and everybody else that they made us really like before all the big stuff went down, there's a lot of stakes. This movie is constantly putting you on edge with all the other characters. And that's one of the craziest things I've ever heard about this movie is that there's no longer any stakes. Maybe not with the main character, but...
Did anybody really think that Captain America was going to die in Winter Soldier? Did you really think he was gonna die? You really went into that movie being like, "There's a chance that this is Chris Evans' last movie and that he dies in this movie." Like, come on.
I'm not defending the gripe. I'm not defending the gripe at all. But I guess like the difference would be that, Scott, we've seen the moment when Black Widow dies. You know what I mean? It's like I guess that's the difference. I'm not defending the gripe. I'm not defending the gripe at all.
It's caught on a technicality.
I'm saying that's the excuse that everybody's handing out. And it just upsets me because I'm like, well, all these other characters, when it comes to them, there's a lot of stakes on all the other characters. Because who'd have thunk that they'd get Florence Pugh to do more than one of these? I certainly didn't. I'll be honest. Like I didn't
wasn't
think.
sure. Yeah.
I thought that this was going to be like a one-off throwaway character. Honestly, when I saw her in the previews,
I was like,
"There's no way to get her to do more, though. She's just Black Widow's sister." I didn't think she'd be. Oh, but lo and behold, I mean, they're clearly working toward that. You know what I mean? So it's like with the way this character's been hyped up, there's no way they're not going to do more.
Yeah.
You know what
also,
I mean?
a big spoiler alert in case anyone is watching and still hasn't seen the movie. Big spoiler alert. But I was like, I can't believe they made me excited for Hawkeye because I was not that excited.
Yeah.
That was one of my least excited. And now I'm like,
yeah.
Hawkeye's probably going to be great. Oh my god.
I've always been excited for Hawkeye. Haley Steinfeld, I mean, that's going to be great, hopefully.
Oh my god, I mean, yeah, I love her, obviously.
Yeah.
But like now, oh my god, Haley Steinfeld and Florence Pugh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm so excited now.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's one of the things, and when we get into spoilers here, I mean, that's one of the big things is like people are going to watch this, and they're going to go, oh, now I see how the show's connect. Which, by the way, looking at that post-credit scene, this was the first thing I thought of when the post-credit scene ended. Is I was looking back at the fact that this was supposed to come out before all the series, and now that I'm seeing it now like this, I'm like, well, that worked out pretty well, didn't it? That worked out really well. That worked out nicely for them.
What if maybe like did they do reshoots or something?
The only thing I can think of.
Because I feel like what if the dialogue was switched?
No, I don't.
Because I thought that too. I was like, that actually. Because if I saw her in Black Widow, I would have been like, who is this? But at least she explains herself.
The only reason I don't think so is because, well, wigs in Hollywood. I was gonna say Florence Pugh's hair is like different now, but anyway, but there are wigs. But I think what actually probably is more likely to have happened is that, if anything, there's one of two things that I think happened. I think number one, they had this in there anyway, and I think that the Val thing was supposed to tease into Falcon Winter Soldier, and that like this just happened to work out better. It just fit better doing it this way, or. Number two, they had this post-credit scene in like WandaVision or something, and then they just took it out and put it here because it just fits so nicely. You know what I mean? It's possible.
I know. I was like, this conveniently
they did a good job
very well for you.
But I don't think it was a reshoot. I want to say no.
No, there's
I'll tell you, it seems very.
I feel like Val was always supposed to show up to John Walker. Because I feel like I don't know about you, but I've been reading some Twitter theories and stuff, and it seems like they're setting up maybe Dark Avengers, like an alternate version of Black Widow with Yelena, an alternate version of Captain America with John Walker.
I
think she was always supposed to appear to both of them.
No, I'm thinking about it. It can't be for any other show or movie because
it also has to set up Hawkeye.
But it fits.
She has to present him. She has to give Yelena that information.
That's weird. It fit very well here, didn't it? That scene.
I'm saying, I feel like they switched something, or
think so?
I don't know. Maybe
they're good at it then. If that's what they did, then that's damn good. It's unnoticeable if that's what they did.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like
that was just the way it was. Good job, because it seems like you switched stuff. So congratulations.
I feel like if it was something along those lines, somebody would have pointed it out. You know what I mean by now?
Right.
We would have read an article that said something on it because one of the big trades would have gotten that information and worked on it if it was like a reshoot. And then the other thing was that there was like any kind of ADR dialogue switching. Somebody would have picked up on that. Somebody would have. It would be viral by now. They'd be like, "See, this movie does suck because there's an ADR thing you can notice." No, it's like no.
Yeah.
It's I don't think so. I think that this is honestly how they had it. I really do. Yeah, I think that this is how they had it, and I think it just worked out better this way, which is great. Which it's fantastic, the way that they did it. But I was heartbroken in that scene too, where she's.
You know, when she does the whistle.
It was sad. It was like one of the saddest things I've seen in a Marvel movie.
She
honestly.
got her dog. My mom, I saw something with my mom, and she audibly went, "Oh, she got a dog."
Yeah. Well, I think that another scene that people are really talking crap about, and I don't think deserves it at all, is the dinner table scene. And I'm sitting here like, that scene was so good.
That was so wonderfully acted.
Because
the tension that builds, the individual tension that builds, the dialogue, the timing of it all.
Sure, some of the best jokes.
Do you hate good acting? I don't understand.
Well, sure, some of the best.
Do you hate good directing? I don't understand.
Some of the best jokes from that were definitely shown in the trailer, so I can understand a gripe about that. But
sure, the big when he comes out in his suit.
Sure, but
yeah.
The problem, my thing is like, and this is something we did see in the trailer. That's another thing I want to throw out here. I think that there was so much that the trailer didn't show. And the trailer did not justify this movie enough. But that said, the thing that the dinner table scene is important for is the fact that Yelena is so hard on the outside, but soft on the inside, and we don't really get to see that. Not soft on the inside, but she has a heart. You know what I mean? Like she clearly is like she has a heart, and she's sensitive.
They've held onto their hearts. They say that.
Yeah, and I think that was important to show there. And then we get the scene where it was like with David Harbour, which I love this, by the way, when he walks into the bedroom and he's like, my father, he make toilet on my hands. I love that. I died laughing.
I freaking died. My favorite was when he's like first shown in jail and he's like when he's arm wrestling everybody but getting a tattoo. I was like, that was so extra. I loved it. He's arm wrestling people while getting a tattoo, like while telling war stories. I loved it.
My favorite type of storytelling in general. A lot of people probably don't know this about me. They probably think it's Space Wizards, but fact is we don't get a lot of those types of stories. So if we did, that would be. But my favorite thing to go to and film and honestly is a story, and this is something Marvel just hasn't done properly before, in my opinion. Is a story about a very dysfunctional family, and that's what we got here. I like a dysfunctional family. If your family is dysfunctional, the more dysfunctional, the better. And this family was definitely dysfunctional. And this is the best that they've ever done that. Like, I know people would come back with Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, yeah, they consider each other family, but they're not really all family. Like, these people are like they grew up together, incredibly dysfunctional. They might not be blood, but
they
they're family.
raised those girls. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They
consider them their mom and dad. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're very dysfunctional. And that makes me laugh. And they, in good ways, and I think that's where the movie really won me over, is when it was like, I fully expected this family to be fun. Don't get me wrong. I thought that they were going to play humor with this family 100%. But it wasn't the fact that they played into the humor of it. It's the fact that the humor of it happened organically. I say this over and over on this show, I feel like, repeatedly when we talk about things that do this well. Because a lot of things can't get that right. A lot of things have to feel like very written jokes. This didn't feel like very written jokes. This felt like this is what's going to come out of the family's mouth. Right. This is what's going to come out of these characters' mouths. In this exact way. And a lot of Marvel movies, as much as I like a lot of the humor, like Guardians of the Galaxy, I love those movies, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it's written jokes.
Because again, it's like they're trying to fulfill a stereotype, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, they're playing a character version of this person, you know what I mean? They are playing it realistically, but this is just such a different degree of like, no, they are just these people.
Yeah.
There's no character, there's no pretense. Yeah. It's just, this is who they are. Because I think that's a testament just how great the acting was and how well it was directed.
Yeah.
They were definitely told to do that.
Yeah.
So I totally agree. This is the best Scarlett Johansson has ever performed as Black Widow because I think she's had the most to do. She's had barely anything to do in the last movies. And I also love that. I love how, like, I mean, the big thing is like with the pose and like Yelena calling her a poser.
That was amazing. That was
amazing because like not only is that funny in the movie, but it's taking a jab at. I couldn't believe that they like said it like that.
They did.
That it's taking a jab at all of the movies. It's like someone's always looking at you. It's like you're posing, and I'm like, it is, because that's not a natural thing. She's doing that to look cool for the people watching the movie. You know what I mean? Versus in this movie, it's like, why would you do that? We're real people. You're doing like a weird pose. That's weird. Versus like you have to flip your hair around and do all of these things so that way you look sexy at the right moment. It's like, no, we're fighting, and it's just how it's. I couldn't believe it.
I'll tell you,
like,
I saw that.
Beautiful.
I saw that scene and I laughed very hard, but A lot of that was a lot of what you're saying really is the fact that it was definitely taking a jab at something that's been actually commented on in the past. And the first person I thought about is my mother, who's commented on that multiple times. Nice. And like she really actually doesn't like the character, I think, because of it, of Black Widow. Honestly.
Oh, she should see this movie.
I agree. I agree because this humanizes the character a lot more than any
She's
other
a real person in this movie. Yeah. Like, that's the thing.
It's grounded from the beginning. It's grounded.
Not fulfilling a role. She's real.
I agree that this movie is very grounded in nature, and the thing about that is the second I saw the by the way, this gave me the biggest goosebumps ever, and I've played it about 100,000 times. Is the Malia J cover of "Smells Like Teen Spirit" in the beginning? It gave me goosebumps when I saw it, and I was like, okay, so this is like...
I can't even with it. It's perfect.
It's phenomenal. Yeah, it was a good song choice. It was an amazing song choice. And then I was sitting there watching that, and I'm like, okay, I like this tone. I didn't expect this tone. I think that was what really got me about it. That is
the tone of the movie, though, isn't it? You know what I mean?
It is. But I didn't expect it. You know what I mean? I didn't expect that tone from this movie. I think that's a lot of what surprised me, is I thought that the tone was going to be very... I don't know, like
more Winter Soldier, you know what I mean? But it was more...
I thought it was going to be a little bit more like a lighthearted Winter Soldier. In some ways it is, but I thought it was going to be like the half-assed version of that.
Right.
Based on the trailers.
Right.
Like, it is a lighthearted Winter Soldier, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It does that very well. But I thought it was going to be like a half-assed version of that.
Yeah. There's no bullshit, basically. You know what I mean? Like, they all showed up, and they were like, no, these are real people. I feel like a lot of it, I just feel like a lot of it has to do with Scarlett Johansson, too.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she literally grabbed them by the throat. She grabbed Kevin Feige by the throat, and she went, this is my last one. I know how, I know all, for me too, I felt the same way. She is lacking. She's not a real realized person the way the men characters are. Yeah. Let us do this and show you all the nuances of it and how it's actually really important and a good story.
Well,
and it will be incredible. And he was like, all right, if you let me go, I'll let you do it. And it worked.
It's not all speculation.
Because the female gaze in these things always is better. I'm sorry.
It's not all speculation. I mean, she really did do that. Kevin Feige said as much.
She did.
Because she handpicked this director. And he was hesitant to do that. But he took her word for it, because she said, I will bank on this. And I think she made the right choice.
Like 216 million I saw over the weekend.
I'm not saying that this movie's not great. It is, and it deserves every penny of that. Don't get me wrong. I'm what I'll say is
it's also the first Marvel movie after when most of us are vaccinated. Not vaccinated, get vaccinated.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. And based on the reviews, I think that's why it did well, because it seems like a lot of people haven't taken to it as well as we did. But that doesn't matter to me. I'm still going to sit here and sing its praises, and I love this movie, and I think it does deserve that money regardless. I think part of it is the fact that other people took to it. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely a factor. But a lot of that, and this is something that I was so happy about going in. Like I said, it's the first Marvel movie since COVID in theaters that we've been able to see, and that was a really great feeling as well. Also, the second the Marvel logo started going and the music played, I just got the biggest smile on my face, and I turned to my mom all excited, and I was like, it's happening, seeing a Marvel movie in theaters. So I'm sure a lot of people had that, but it was great. It felt good. What's the last one? Far From Home?
Yeah, Far From Home.
That's crazy.
Which I saw that in a theater twice in one day.
Yeah, do you have the
last time? But I spent a good day in that theater.
Oh yeah, do you have the director's director's name on hand by chance?
Kate Shortland, I want to say. Right. I do have it, but let me double check.
I guess I've never actually looked it up.
Kate Shortland. Okay. It is Kate Shortland.
Great job she did.
Yes. Oh my God, Kate Shortland. A+. Wherever you met Scarlett Johansson was the most incredible day of my life. God bless.
This is another point I was really wanting to make here today, is the fact that because when we're talking about Yelena, because I want people well, hopefully they've seen the movie if they're watching this review, but I really do want to get across like my feelings on it, which is, okay, so like we've all seen like a lot of great like new characters that are kind of like sitting there on the side a little bit, and they've done that a lot in Marvel. And with these new shows, we have geeked out about people like Agatha Harkness and other things, and Carly. Some people really loved in Falcon Winter Soldier, and they have been really great characters. But I don't think ever to this degree. Like I don't think that people understand the degree that I love this character. Like, I want to go get an action figure right now. I love this character.
Same.
This is like a different thing, and I want a standalone movie of this character right now. I don't.
I'm like, I would have watched her standalone movie right now. Give me Disney Plus show. I'll watch it right now.
Yeah. Yes, I like Mobius. I like Carly. I love Agatha Harkness. I love those. They're all great new characters that are kind of like on the side of everything, but they're not to the level of what Florence Pugh did here. And that's a lot. That's a big reason that I love this movie, is they had one of those characters, and it's been a long time since I've had that feeling about a character that was new. And to me anyway. I knew nothing about this character beforehand. Nothing.
No, yeah, me neither.
She's her sister. That's all I knew, and like that's just because the trailer gave me that. And that's like I don't have any like comic book pretense on that character at all, and that's pretty cool. Like Taskmaster, I'll say this. Now this is cool. With Taskmaster, I always kind of knew of Taskmaster, didn't really know anything about Taskmaster except for the look, maybe. And then I finally got to play the Spider-Man game since I got the PS5 now. The first Spider-Man game that came out in 2018 of the new Sony franchise. And Taskmaster's in that game a lot, and it made me even more excited about the character. And I'll say, just based on that game, they did the character quite justice in this movie. And then some. They did the character justice and then some, because I definitely wasn't expecting the twist. Honestly.
I know.
And that's, well, we could say it. It's his daughter. Drake's daughter, right? So,
Drake's daughter.
And that's something that I definitely wasn't expecting. And it made the character so much cooler. It was a really good villain because of that. And the other thing I would say about it is there was something just very grim when she took off the helmet, about her look. And you felt for it. You felt for that character in that moment, because that character is something that has no control over what it's doing. That, to me, makes a really good villain, is when they have no control over the fact that they're villain. And I got such... it took me right back to like Doc Ock and Spider-Man 2, because I'm sitting there like thinking about how that character, and a lot of the concept of that is similar in the sense that there was like a chip in the back, and it was controlling a lot of their personality and things like that. So I know I'm frozen here, folks. I'm working on it. But that was a lot of the thing that it took me back to. A lot of this movie, I don't know if you got this vibe, but for some reason, a lot of this movie, it was the moment that the first chase happened with the Taskmaster and Black Widow. A lot of this movie just took me back for some reason, and I mean this in the best way possible, to the old Spider-Man movies. You know what I mean? I don't know why.
Yeah.
It felt a little more. It felt grounded on that level, And it was like the comedy was kind of hitting on that level. It was one of those interesting things where I was like, I don't know if I revere it as much, but I definitely feel this is the closest it's come to those movies, in a long time. And I feel like we need that kind of tone and vibe in these things,
Right.
I love the new Spider-Man movies. Agree. I like John Watts' directing for them, and I think he does something different that's just as cool, but it's just, there's something about the grounded level of this, and I was like, see, this is the kind of superhero movie I grew up on. I think that's a lot of what hit me about it,
Yeah, totally. Also, I was gonna say so the thing about the girl power of this movie is that it's not overt about it. It's not. It's showing you instead of telling you that it's a girl power movie. You know what I mean?
Very much.
Because there's a lot of again how Black Widow was before. It was well, I care about her because she fights good, not because I care about her character, I know a lot about her, and I emotionally empathize with her, but because she fights good, or for a lot of men because she looks good, or for both, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now it's like it's that whole new level where it was like, well, I know all about Steve Rogers and everything, but what do I really know about Natasha? Again, it's not that much.
Yeah.
And so this is, again, this whole movie is just explaining, I guess, why to care about her, but it's her origin story, but it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a little bit of a way too, where I think also the first 10 minutes of this movie are freaking phenomenal. Everything before the opening credits, which I also loved. Whole opening thing with the plane chase and them as little kids. Absolutely phenomenal. And I was like, I got more character development for her in that first 10 minutes than I did in the last 4 Avengers movies.
I liked
honestly.
a lot of that. I said that was one of my small gripes, though, was I thought that went just a little over long, just a little bit. One of my very small gripes on this movie, but I did like a lot of it. I thought a lot of the tone was really good, and it was a little different than a lot of things we'd seen in Marvel before. And I thought it wasn't that it was a poorly shot and edited scene. It was just sequence. It was just more or less. I thought it could have been maybe shortened just a little. It just, I don't know, like I felt like.
And I love even like, oh, go ahead.
Well, no, I just felt like by the time we got like back around to David Harbour and Rachel Weisz, I was just kind of like, I could have used a little less in the beginning and still probably would have cared as much. But
really? Okay.
I thought, but yeah, it's not a bad sequence. It's just a little over long. That's all. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say too that I also love how, like, by the end of this movie, there's been so many of these, there's like all these Black Widows in the world have now been released. So because a big gripe that I always did have with Black Widow was like, I like her character and everything, and I do like how the rest of the movie plays out because of it, and I do know that Scarlett Johansson wanted to leave the franchise, but I was like, I cannot believe that they are killing the only female Avenger right now, because then it's just like you're eliminating one of them, you know what I mean? But this movie says, yes, Black Widow has been removed, but guess what? There are thousands of more that she released in that exit. You know what I mean? Loved that. That redeemed that for me a little bit. And not only, and then plus we have Yelena. Like that, she's not replacing her, but you know what I mean? Like, you're losing a Natasha, but gaining a Yelena, plus thousands of others that are out there that are incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the biggest...
That's what I mean by, like, the girl power of it, you know what I mean? By having your female Avenger free other women that way.
Well, that was one of the most... Beautiful. That was one of the most relieving things, I would say, for me about this movie.
Is the fact that they were like...
yes, we're getting rid of Black Widow in the singular form, but not the plural. And then I said, I like that. And then you know, the thing that's cool about that is the fact that, because the last thing I wanted this movie to, number one, I was kind of bummed they're getting rid of one of their, like you said, few female Avengers by killing her. That said, the last thing I wanted this movie to do was to bring her back from the dead, and they didn't. That was not the goal of this movie, and I was so happy about that. Yeah, and I was just scared of that. I thought that was going to end up being the goal of this movie. And I'm like, oh god, they're going to find it's Marvel. They're going to find a way to bring her back. And they did. I think
Scarlett Johansson's done. I think she did what she had to do with this movie and then peaced out.
I hope this is her last one because it's such a good way to go out.
What a high note.
Yeah.
Because this changes the game. This is the bar now.
Yeah.
I expect nothing less from female superhero movies for the rest of my life. I literally will be angry if we degrade from this, because I'll be like, what happened, guys? You couldn't call Kate Shortland? She would have gladly taken your call, I bet. Patty Jenkins.
Yeah.
I do love the Wonder Woman movies, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, one thing I was going to say, I'm taking this, and it's just because it's the gospel to me now. I'm taking this from the Double Toasted review here. That they did on this movie, because it made me laugh so hard, and it's a point that nobody is bringing up. And it's so true. It's gospel to me. Is the fact that it took this long to get a standalone Black Widow movie, but Ant-Man got two. Ant-Man got two.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, that's the thing. This movie should have come out. We've wanted this. Women have wanted this. We've wanted this since Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
We've been waiting that long. Over, like, what is this? Over, like, 10 years almost? We've wanted it. What was the holdup? But I kind of feel like, you know what? I feel like it took that much tension, and it took her being painted in such a light for us now to be able to appreciate this more. Or, you know what I mean? It took us having to deal with that to learn how not to do it for us to know how to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It made the differences more clear by having that been so long. But I agree. Like, what, this should have came out after Civil War.
Yeah. It's just,
but I mean, but also, like, the stars did align, I think, with actor, director,
for sure.
Florence Pugh. I don't know what she would have been cast back then.
That's one of the things I'll say is, like, I think that everything worked out for the best in the end when it came to this in particular movie going the way it did. Like you said, the stars aligned. Don't get me wrong, and it went the way. The post-credit
scene was incredible too. That had to be post-Endgame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily everything aligned at the end. But, you know, it's like, it's like, why? You know? It's like, why did it take so long? Like for them to give Black Widow this moment, you know? That's all. It's a question I'll always have, regardless of how much I love this.
It's really, I feel like they did not believe that movie would make money. I feel like at the end of the day, it's all about money. I feel like
I know, but it's like
there's not, people don't want to watch a Black Widow movie right now. They only want to watch her with Captain America. And they genuinely thought that, and then Captain Marvel came out, and, you know, Wonder Woman came out.
I do think
Scarlett Johansson grabbed Kevin Feige by the throat for dear life, and you know, here we are.
Well, I do think that if everything lined up exactly the way that it did now, back after Civil War came out, I do think it would have made money, though. That's the thing.
100%.
I do think it would have. I think it would have maybe 100%. Even done better.
I think this should have come out. Yeah, if you can still get Florence Pugh, if Florence Pugh had been a star back then as well, then yes, this should have came out after Civil War. 100%.
Would have worked out better because you're getting, because people here's the thing, people would have saw Civil War, they would have been like, man, I like the movie, but I like Winter Soldier better, which was a lot of the reaction after Civil War. Right. A lot of people did like Winter Soldier better.
It was more Avengers 2.5.
Right, and they were like, I wanted that grounded Captain America movie again. And you're kind of getting it here. So this comes out right after. Not only does it fit so well, you feel like you're getting what you lost in Civil War a little bit out of it. And it feels
totally her movie.
Yeah, and it's like, and it humanizes the character so much more. And then I can't even imagine how I would have felt watching Infinity War and Endgame for the first time with her, knowing what she went through prior, which I cannot wait to rewatch now.
Like, it would have been the whole thing with the vest, you know what I mean?
Everything.
Yeah, because that was the thing I had to explain to my mom that we noticed later. Because, like, the vest still works, and again, it still works in the movie, but knowing in retrospect that she wears it all of Infinity War, like... It would have been so much. It would have been so cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this has been said, but I feel like the blonde hair was also, I'm gonna go ahead and say, was a Yelena tribute as well.
Yeah.
She dyed her hair because
that's cool.
Because of Yelena.
I like that.
That's no one else has proved that. I just feel like that happened.
I agree.
It feels right to me.
I concur. Because I think that. I mean, one of the most heartbreaking. I already said this, but like, I want people to know, like, I got actual tears in my eyes when Florence Pugh was at the gravesite. You know, it was like that's how much I loved that relationship. That's how much this movie sold me on it. It really brought some tears to my eyes when I saw that, and I was like, oh my gosh, because that's the thing about the character of Yelena. Like I said, she's very hard on the inside. She's got a very hard shell, but on the inside, she has a heart, and she really like she was saying, she never had a family. Like, to her, that family was real, you know? Like that touches me. It really does. It's like, to her, that family was like a real thing. Even as dysfunctional as it was. She clings on to that her entire life. And even like Scarlett Johansson in that Rachel Weisz conversation was very heartbreaking. A very tearjerking moment when she said that about, you know, she never lost her heart, or, you know, and how did you keep your heart? That question broke my heart. Like, no pun intended. Like, it really did. Like, when she asked that, like, it really did break my heart when she asked that question. And she said, what'd she say? She was like, everything you taught me, I hung on to that. It kept me alive. Yeah. And that's crazy when you hear that, you know, because in the moment it all works out so well. And yeah, I love this family, and I wish we could spend more time with this family, you know, and we can't with Black Widow in it, but I'm okay with that too on some level, because knowing how she died, I'm glad they didn't turn back. But it's like I want the Yelena movie, like now, you know, like I do. I want that to be a thing, and
maybe we'll get like Black Widow 2, but it'll be Yelena.
that would be amazing.
That would be my guess.
Like
something like that.
You have no clue how excited.
Because then you could bring Rachel Weisz and David Harbour back.
Yeah,
too.
do it.
And that would be really cool. That would be emotional for everybody.
I know not everybody agrees. I think that this is one of their most successful attempts at building a team of superhumans. You know,
Definitely.
like I really do, and I think that I know you agree with me on that. So I'll say this for Marvel and Disney right now: if you guys make that movie, we'll go see it at least. I mean, you at least have two right here that'll pay for that, you know.
Yeah.
because it, honestly, it's just genuinely, it's the next movie I want to see. It really is. I want some type of a follow up to everything that was built here. And like something that's I mean I just want to see Yelena get the spotlight, and I do hope that they build to that, you know. I really do. I hope that they really build to that in a big way. Do you think that she's gonna team up with Wyatt Russell?
I think so, because here's how I'm
too.
thinking about it. I think they might do a Dark Avengers type thing, and they might end up bringing Kate Bishop in with them. I think that might be a thing where like Yelena goes to hunt down Clint Martin, but then, you know, but doesn't know that he's training Kate Bishop, and then they might become friends or something.
Yeah.
And then they bring them in, because that's a Dark Avengers, right?
That'd be cool.
Like, my understanding, I don't know about the comics. I know very little from like Twitter searches and everything.
They don't have to
but
do
I think
like
it's like mirrored versions of the Avengers. So it'd be like a dark version of Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, dark version of Black Widow, Yelena, dark version of Captain America, John Walker.
Well, just make
that's where I would go right now.
Well, just make that
that's what I'm thinking.
Just make that the new team. You know, in general.
Yeah.
Don't even call it Dark Avengers. Just call it Avengers.
The new team.
Just call it Avengers 5. You know? I'm serious. Like, make that Avengers 5. Make that the team. Because I couldn't think of one better. I don't know Kate Bishop yet. I know that I'm excited about Haley Steinfeld in the role.
Yeah.
But think
also,
about
maybe
that.
Wanda's kids too might eventually join that.
Maybe.
I'm not sure. Also, maybe Vision. Ooh, I just remembered that. White Vision's out there too.
Think about that. They're clearly like putting these people out there for something. And
everybody I just mentioned as a possible member of that team, I love.
Yeah.
So
this is like, well, they're building what I actually think that they were trying to build is the new Avengers. Like, regardless of what it's gonna be, you know. I don't think everybody's pointing to like young Avengers. I don't think it's that. I really don't. I just think it's gonna be the new Avengers. Who's gonna be the new Avengers team? And I think that they've given us some pretty great potential additions to that, or characters, and
Cassie Lang, right?
Cassie Lang. I want to see Catherine Newton play that role. I hope she does well. You know, I think that she might. And 100%. You're right.
But thank God, I just realized already so many incredible female characters. Like, thank God. I just thank God, Marvel.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Feige. Like, listen to Scarlett Johansson more often, because this is
Ooh.
They're doing. They're so far. They're doing everything I've ever wanted them to do.
Yeah. Speaking of
it's a great time for me to be a Marvel fan right now.
Yeah. Speaking of your Dark Avengers theory, though, I mean, we got Moon Knight coming in, which is probably going to be your one male.
Right.
But that's Marvel's Batman.
She-Hulk too. Ooh.
Yeah.
Just remembered.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Moon Knight's Marvel's Batman. And you don't get much darker than that. You know what I mean? So it's like you're kind of onto something, I think. Yeah, I really do. Definitely. Avengers Dark, maybe they'll call. I don't know, but you're onto something.
They're definitely, I think, passing mantles over, so that way eventually there will be a team-up movie.
Well, they are definitely bringing in characters that live on the edge a little bit.
Yes.
You know, they do things
definitely
on the edge. They'd be great heroes, but they live on the edge.
And what's cool too, I feel like it's so what a time to be alive, because I've said before that I think superhero movies are like our modern mythology. I genuinely think they are for this current time. I think Westerns were for a while, but I think in modern America cinema, superhero movies are our modern mythology. And I think that that's so incredible to be passing the mantle on to these younger characters who are going to have to deal with trauma and going to have to deal with legacy, and what does that mean for them, and how they deal with that. I think is so modern and so timely, especially, and it's only going to get more timely as time goes on, you know what I mean? More timely as time goes on. It's going to get more relatable as the years go on, I think. And I just love that. God bless Kevin Feige.
You're right. And I think that we could bring that back into this movie, because this movie is that. It's a character who has to go revisit their traumatic past. That's the plot right there. She has to, in order to achieve the goal.
Today. That's our modern themes of today.
Yeah, and she did. That's this movie. It's
being reflected back at us through superheroes.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I like to think of this one as their attempt of time travel properly, because it's metaphorically time travel in the sense that she does have to visit her past.
Right.
I like that a lot more than just like the basic time travel. I've always said Endgame did time travel better than a lot of other movies. I agree with that, and I stand by that. But I think that this was just this intrigues me a lot more than that. You know, in my opinion, like this definitely is something that intrigues me a lot more. You know, one of the things. I said this about another character that we were talking about, or another actress we were talking about on this show, I think not that long ago, but one of the things that I cannot commend more for them casting it for this reason is Florence Pugh as Yelena. She's again another one of these examples, and I can't remember who I was talking about that. I was like, the same exact metaphor, but she's another one of these actresses. She's not traditionally beautiful. She's not. Like, Florence Pugh is not that girl. She's not. And that's not an insult. She's just not. You look at her and go, that's your supermodel. Like, by the traditional standard. Anyway, she should be, because she's gorgeous. You know, I love looking at her, and she's
I'm like, I don't know. For me, she kind of is.
Really?
Like, I've never not looked at her and been like, she is stunning.
Wow.
Like, I think she is stunning.
I think she is stunning, Sammy. I agree with you. I'm saying that there's a lot of men with ridiculous standards, and we know this in the industry that a lot of men with ridiculous standards would not use her as their model. You know, she worked her way up through a lot of indie films. She is what I call a very pure talent. She did not work her way through just getting hired in blockbusters because of her look.
I'm just looking at the IMDb page, and I'm like, I literally can't. Like, I've Rachel Weisz is genuinely, like, I think one of the most beautiful women
she's gorgeous
who have ever lived on this planet. And I'm like looking at all three of them: Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, and Rachel Weisz. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, it's just like stunning.
I agree. I just think that I don't know. Florence Pugh is relatable in the sense she does look a little bit more like somebody you can actually see in real life. And I don't mean that as an insult to her. She is, I think that is more beautiful, in my opinion. But a lot of other people don't. To me, I find that to be a lot more beautiful, is when you have a natural look to you. That's just, it's there, you know? And I love her. I love her for that. And so much more, but that's one of the factors. And, you know, her charisma is out of this world, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's a charisma I don't see anywhere else. I think that's a lot of what. Oh, okay. You know what I compare it to? A lot of. I'm not just talking her look. I'm talking her overall charisma. I'm talking the things that she gives off on screen and what she brings to it she is a classic actress, in my opinion. She's not a modern Hollywood actress. She feels like somebody that we would have seen, like a Katharine Hepburn or something along those lines. That's a little bit more the way that Florence Pugh approaches.
I think she's like our Meryl Streep. She's our young Meryl
Streep. Huh? It's a high standard. Well, I'm not gonna discount it.
She can get there.
I'm not gonna discount it.
Watch Little Women, man. You say this and you have not seen Little Women.
I'm not discounting it. I'm just saying that it's such a bold statement right now. But I'm not discounting it. She has that though. Whatever like Meryl Streep has, she has it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Because like Meryl Streep was like the new Katharine Hepburn. You know what I mean?
True.
Before that.
Yeah. But she definitely has that thing. That's I guess what I'm getting at is she has it. Whatever they have that they just bring, and it's like it's just a natural whatever. I don't know how you do it, but I don't know. Like it would just be it would blow my mind.
She's completely untrained too. According to Ari Aster, said that she's like completely untrained. She started audition. She just woke up one day, started auditioning.
Yeah, that's the other thing. She didn't work her way out through.
Didn't go to school or anything.
Right.
Wasn't really like a child star that much. Like,
didn't really worry about her look as much.
She doesn't.
That's why I guess what I was trying to say is like she's definitely stunning to me. When I look at her, I'm like, she's clearly stunning.
But it's the thing of that especially in this movie where it doesn't like her value on screen isn't necessitated by how beautiful she is.
Right.
Her value on screen is by her character and the words that she's saying and by her actions and by her importance to the story and to those around her.
Yes.
That's the difference.
I guess I try to like block myself from saying it that way, and it's not that you're wrong, you're 100% right, but I block myself from saying it that way because I feel bad for so many women like a Scarlett Johansson, for example, that do actually try and put everything to the screen, and like because I think that's a lot of the reasons
for how pretty they are.
Right, and I think that's a lot of the reason that I've always liked Scarlett Johansson in these movies myself is because I see that she's trying. I see that the personality is underneath. I see that she clearly has a passion for the character this whole time. Yeah. But this time she got to really do everything that she needed for the first time, I think, and everything that the character required, and humanized the character, and just gave her that. And that's one of the things, but going back to the beginning to pull this full circle, is like a lot of people just talk about there's no stakes involved with the Black Widow character. And but the thing is, beyond that, though, it doesn't make it weightless. Everything going on with the Black Widow character is clearly very taxing to her, and I think that's important to see. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. The stakes are character stakes. It's not necessarily life or death, but it's the betterment of them. Is she going to be able to move on from this past trauma?
Right.
Is she going to be able to stop this organization?
Right.
Is she going to be able to... Is she condemned to just letting other women live this tragedy, or is she going to be the one to save them? That's the stakes.
Yeah.
Versus is she going to die or not?
Exactly. And I think what it does very successfully is it makes us... You're fine.
To quote one of my favorite quotes from Little Women, when she's with Timothée Chalamet, oh my god, what does she say? It's like, life isn't all war. Other things can be sad too.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
Yes, and I mean the thing that it is though with Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow is, I'm sorry, Natasha Romanoff, is I mean that it's a shift in perception by the time we get over to Endgame and Infinity War again. When we rewatch those movies, we're gonna hopefully remember what she went through here and carry that forward with us through those movies when we revisit them. And I think that it's just going to add so much more now, I guess that's my idea of it. And even like, actually, scratch that. I kind of say that about any Black Widow movie now, I feel like. I think that's what makes this movie work so well. Any appearance that Black Widow's been in, it's going to shift our perception because we got our backstory now. It's there, like we really got the backstory.
Yes.
It wasn't just like
the legacy has been left.
Yeah. We didn't get the Iron Man 2 version of her backstory. We really got a backstory now. You know what I mean? And then like Iron Man 2 kind of glazed over it. They were like glossed over it. They were like, yeah, this is what it is. But we don't want to show you any of that. We don't want to make a movie on her to show you that. It's like, why? Do it. Right. This shows that you can do it.
Yeah. Definitely. I also think, just thinking about another example that I did notice when watching it. So in Age of Ultron, when they do talk about her backstory, they just kind of, the way she talks about the fact that she was sterilized, it's very kind of like, it's toned down. There's not a lot of strict language used. It's kind of hinted at. And she says, I can't have children, is the way she phrases it. She says, she doesn't say I was sterilized or my uterus was ripped out. She says, I can't have children. And she's upset because she'll never have children and she won't be a mother. Again, she's upset because there's a role that she won't be able to fill. This movie, I was like, thank God for Kate Shortland and Scarlett Johansson, because like, again, Yelena literally, she's like, oh yeah, she was like, I don't have my period, my uterus was ripped out, they got in there, they chopped it up and they pulled it all out. She's like, oh, I was gonna talk about fallopian tubes next. I was like, I never thought I would hear the words uterus and fallopian tubes in a Marvel movie said by and it was said by the coolest character in the movie too, you know what I mean? It wasn't said as a joke by a side
You're
character.
right.
It wasn't viewed as weird. It was said legitimately,
Yeah.
straightly by the coolest character in the movie that we all agree upon.
Yeah.
And like, and instead of like, no, our bodies were, it's not that we can't be mothers, it's that our bodies were violated and a choice was taken away from us because some man decided it for us. You know what I mean? And again, none of that is directly said, but it's all shown. And it's for you to kind of look at and decipher. Because it's just real people existing and they're just doing their thing. Again, they're not posing for you. They're just doing their thing and you're watching it. They're real.
Some of the
I love this movie, man.
Smaller conversations are what makes this movie. Smaller moments, smaller little things are. It's the little things, honestly, that makes this movie work, and it's a lot of that is due to.
It's in the details. That's also a female gaze thing too. I would argue that it's all about little details and what's not being said versus what is being said, and the looks and glances and perspective. That's a female gaze thing, I would argue. Not to say that the other movies don't, because they definitely do, but you know what I mean? It's the small details that make it really incredible, I think.
Not as well.
In any piece of art.
Yeah. But I think the thing that we haven't touched on yet with that is we talked about a lot of Scarlett and Florence individually, but we don't talk about them together yet, which that's something I wanted to point out here is a lot of what makes it work is their chemistry is on point.
Absolutely.
You feel like they're sisters.
Yeah.
You do.
Oh man, do you? Yeah. I love, because it's their first kind of big introduction is in a fight. You know what I mean? The first time they see each other, they have guns drawn. Because you know it's all of that time has passed, but it's still that great conversation, and then they just fight. And they're trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
Like, tell me that's not sisters. I mean, come on.
Oh, and I love the, I think the most sisterly conversation that they had in here is probably something along the lines of what was the vest where she was like, I knew you thought this looked cool.
She was like, it was so cool, right?
Yeah.
She's like, I knew you'd love it.
Yeah.
I got a big laugh in my theater. That was really fun.
Yeah, it was a great moment. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I didn't really get a lot of laugh in my theater, but I also saw this in the drive-in. So I felt like an idiot laughing alone in the vehicle. But
there were some good.
There
were a couple laughs that. Okay, so I was sitting in between my mom, and then there was a family next to me, and I was sitting next to the mom of that family. So I was in between two women, and they both were laughing at a lot of parts. But I feel like there was a lot of I heard a lot of women laughing.
Yeah.
There were a lot of parts where it was like strictly women laughing, like the pose part. I don't know why, but I didn't. There were a good amount of guys in my theater, and I heard only women laughing. Again, that could have just been my surround sound.
Maybe. No, I laughed.
I was like, what, guys, are you mad because you're realizing that she was posing like that for your desire and not because women would actually pose like that? Are you just now realizing that and you don't want to laugh, or what is it?
I laughed extremely hard. I just, you know what it was is like we're starting to open up what that character really is, and I think that's what really got me about it, because it was such a surprise, in my opinion. It was a surprising amount of heart that was added to this character and humanizing this character. You know, and she just, because she does it out of the blue, she's like, what does this pose you do? You know, and
it's so casual. She was like, you go down like this and you do your hair thing, and it's, what is this?
And she's just doing it in public too, which made me laugh even harder. She's just doing it like it's so funny to me.
Again, it's just real sisters, real people just talking to each other.
Yeah. She just brought this personality.
People.
She brought a personality that was just so full of life, and it just I can't say enough great things about it. I mean, what Florence Pugh did is unprecedented in this. It's really great. It's something new.
That's why I've been having a hard time to sum up my a review on this movie, because I'm like, it's everything I've wanted. That's kind of what I have to say about it. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I think I love everything that you have to say, everything you have to bring up. I'm like, yeah, I loved that.
Yeah.
Yes, I loved that too. Everything.
Was there?
You know there was one. I noticed there was one just shot of her ass when she's like fixing the generator or something.
Okay.
It's like like this part of the screen up here was just ass, and then legs. So it was about like, I don't know. There was a little bit of leg in there too, but I was like, that was literally it though. Because for a second I went, oh no. And then there were no other like ass shots like that in the rest of the movie. I don't know what that was. I don't know how that made it in there.
Okay. No,
that was it. That was literally it.
I genuinely missed that one. And sometimes it happens. It's not.
Yeah.
No.
It was kind of a blink and you'll miss it. It was maybe 5 seconds. Of the movie.
I was gonna say it doesn't always get put in there just to be there. It's typically sometimes it just happens.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, to my understanding, I mean, sometimes you're gonna get a backside shot. It's
maybe I was supposed to focus on something else. I don't know, but it was a lot of butt.
Because I didn't notice it. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I really didn't in this one. But and by the way, I since talking to you, I have been looking for that more and like trying to point it out a lot more. I guess.
Good.
Maybe growing up a male, I just never. I mean, there were times where it definitely bothered me even before meeting. Clearly, the ones of Wonder Woman and the Joss Whedon Justice League were horrible.
Yes.
But you know, I'm not saying that it. But
most are subtle, though. You know what I mean. Most you have to look for a little bit.
Sure, and I have been trying to be more wary of that though since talking to you for sure. And this movie, I genuinely didn't catch any.
Nice.
But
I know, literally, like that was it. That was literally it.
Yeah, but no pun intended. You know what I was gonna say is like, because we've talked so much about the human moments of the film, and I think a lot of that is what makes it for sure. But was there any like? I guess my question to you: were there any like big action scenes that stood out to you?
Oh my gosh, all of it. I guess the chase scene at the beginning with Yelena is the first one that comes to mind.
Okay.
I love that when they're the whole
in the car, right?
of them in the car.
Right? That's one that comes to mind too.
Yeah, I was really into that. And going all the way down into the subway, and they have to climb up, and her arm starts bleeding.
That was incredible. That whole sequence was great. Well shot.
I loved all of them, man, because
they were all good.
Because this did follow the 3-act fight. Like all the Fast and Furious movies do this too. The 3-act fight scenes. Yeah. Where Act 1 will end in a big fight scene. Act 2 will end in a big fight thing, and Act 3 will. And the Act 2 one, when they break out Dad from jail, I also really loved that though. Yeah. That I thought was incredible. I love when Yelena like shoots the thing and she just goes, "Ha." Loved it. I loved every part of that.
This is really
the end too, when they break all the widows out and she breaks her freaking nose.
Of course.
Man.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh my god, and she's flying through the. Oh my god, Scarlett Johansson said, "I want to be flying through the air, no parachute, while fighting them, and I'm gonna look awesome while doing it."
Yeah.
And she did.
Yeah, and then the other one that stands out to me is the Taskmaster one on the bike that in the beginning was really, really well shot. It was well done. I liked a lot of the aesthetic of adding the fire to that scene was really good.
Yeah, like that's cool.
That was really good. That was really well done and well shot. Like you said, there's not an action scene amongst them that I can think of where I watched it and said that was weak, which typically happens in a Marvel movie for me. As you probably know, I typically have one or two that I watch and I'm like, that's not shot well at all. And then this movie didn't have any of that, and I'll hand it to it. It really was the first time I watched one where it was like, it felt like all the action scenes were very precise about the way they went about shooting them. I don't think I can remember one that really bothered me, this time, which is good. But I don't know. I mean, did you have any gripes on top of that?
Not really. I do some parts, it was a bit slow in some parts, I will say. I do think this movie could have been maybe 5-ish minutes shorter. It could have been a little shorter.
Yeah.
Like some of the, oh man, what's his name? OT something. The guy from The Handmaid's Tale who was her like helper guy.
Yeah.
Those moments who helped get her the RV and then the plane at the end. That guy, oh man, I forget his name. I can look it up. Some of his scenes were OT Feg Benny. No idea if I'm pronouncing that right. But like some of the scenes with that could have been a little shorter.
Yeah.
It was all right though. I wasn't upset about it.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. That was kind of one of the moments where I was kind of
like, there was a wink, it was him.
that was probably one of the ones where it lacked a little bit for me, for sure. The other thing, like I said, the beginning was a bit overlong, in my opinion. It dragged out just a bit in terms of the pacing. And then, I was just kind of at a point with the beginning where I was like, I kind of want to get out of the backstory part now. It's like I was kind of like, I get it. I kind of want to get out of it and move on. I mean, the American Pie thing was obviously an important thing that came up later in the best way. But
I really like that.
That was great, but everything else, I was like, okay, I kind of get where you're going. Just get there. When it came to that, but then the other thing that I had with it that wasn't like, again, none of my gripes are like massive, but it's like another. I guess if I had to choose another one here, it would just be that it was. Like I said already, sometimes the moments can start to get heavy, and they'll do the Marvel thing where they throw out a joke in a heavy moment, and you just kind of wish that they wouldn't. But I feel like all Marvel movies have done it to the point where I've kind of come to expect it, so I'm not like overly upset when it does happen, being a Marvel fan. But I can see why that gets on people's nerves from time to time. But it's not all the time, because again, most of the humor here works better than most Marvel movies, so I'm not overly upset because I like the humor here more than I do most of the time in Marvel movies. So I'm not really that upset about the humor in general. It was all really good humor, and it made me laugh really hard, and a lot of it, like we said, felt natural. It didn't feel like written jokes, and it was just a really fun time of a movie. And again, like I say this grading it on a scale of like an action film, too. Don't get me wrong, because it's like that's what it is at the end of the day. While there are great human moments, I do look at this as if I was watching Mission Impossible.
It's great. I think on that scale as well.
It is. It's at 100% on that scale, and it really is.
Like 5 out of 5.
Yeah, 100% on that scale. It works that way.
This is everything for the rest of my life. When I talk about female superhero movies, I'll be like, Black Widow set the bar, man.
Yeah.
Black Widow's where it was at.
And obviously that's the added bonus to it, right? Is the fact it's female-led, and it's done probably better than I've seen most of these movies try to do a female lead.
Only good comes from female directors and writers. Only good.
Yeah.
Only good.
That's not a claim.
Let people tell their own stories. Only good.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not me claiming that none of them have done it well. I mean, Alita Battle Angel is another one I'll throw out that I thought did it very well. Where the first
Wonder Woman, I do really like.
And first Wonder Woman, that's another one that was done very well. But I feel like in all those movies, the difference is there's always one or two parts where you're like, okay, they kind of slipped,
There's always something that just doesn't feel quite real enough. Doesn't feel quite tangible. But where this movie does,
it did.
There's
it felt the most. There's no question of all the female-led action movies. This felt the most consistent with being a female, like you said, in the female gaze. With being in the female gaze, this felt the most consistent with that. It didn't feel like there was a male in the writer's room or a male interfering or anything at any point in the movie. It really didn't. And it just felt very consistent with that, and it felt like,
which is interesting because there's the writing team. A man wrote the screenplay, and then the story was co-written by a man and a woman.
Yeah,
which I think is interesting because also my pointed this out. My mom asked, she was like, interesting. So it's directed by a woman but written by a man, and I was like, yeah, but interesting. Loki is also technically story written by a man, directed by a woman. I don't know. Two of my favorite Marvels things of the last few years.
I'm really glad that we both came out of this agreeing as much as we did. I because I was really nervous about it. I was like, okay, because I know your standards for this type of thing, and I was really, I watched it and completely thought that they did it really well, and I'm like, man, if I bring it here and I'm like, I thought it was done well, and she's gonna be like, no, she's gonna pick it all apart, and she's
I'm
gonna
like,
tell me,
I'm on cloud 9. This is the best thing ever.
And that was such a surprise and a great thing to me. I knew you liked the movie, and I expected you to like it after seeing it myself. But I'm so glad that you were as high on it as I was, because it doesn't seem like a lot of people were. And I feel like we're finally like right on the same page on this show, for the first time.
I know.
And it's pretty cool conversation to have when we're like right there on the same page for once. Not that disagreements don't make interesting conversations; they do. It's just
it's nice to agree.
Finally, it's like I feel like we're right there with the new one here, and that's really great to have finally, and I'm glad that you got to have this, and that because I know how you are, and like I am glad that you got to like have this moment where they did everything right for you as well.
Yes.
And I was very surprised to see how good it was. I got to be honest with you. I was surprised to see that it was this good. I didn't have the highest of expectations going in. I'll be honest, the trailers to me were fine, but they looked very generic as opposed to what this product actually is. So
no, I kind of agree.
Yeah. So I thought it was going to be maybe at the very least a fun Marvel movie. It is that and so much more.
Yes.
If you ask me, and I think that's what at the end of the day really impressed me.
It was impressive.
It was an impressive outing, and it's just not something we see every day. And I want
more of it
for sure. I really want more of it.
Yeah. It's in simplest terms, it's literally everything that I have ever wanted from Marvel. It's everything I ever wanted for this character, for this franchise. I couldn't be like, I want to go to a lecture on this movie. Yeah. I love it so much. I could dive into, I want to go frame by frame and discuss every single line, because it's everything. It hit it out of the ballpark, I think. And I just, hats off to everybody who made this movie. You are my hero. You are my heroes.
Yeah.
I love you so much.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, I kind of don't know. I think that's all we got. You got anything else?
Oh yeah, last thing. I mean, I know it's not going to happen. I wish they would nominate Scarlett Johansson finally for this role.
I don't think, if it didn't happen for Downey, I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it'll happen, but I just wanted to throw out there one more time that it was just the best way to go out for her. And a lot of the times I knew that they would give her stuff to do that was more on the human level, but it's very rare that we get something like that where it's all very right with the story. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the times, like, we do get these very human moments, but it's like they're just throwing it in there to make it look. A lot of times Hollywood does this. I'm not accusing Marvel of just doing it. I'm saying a lot of times Hollywood does this, where we're going to throw in very human, emotional moments just to show that we have them. And then, you know, it's like, and like this movie it didn't feel like it was just checking it off the box. It felt like it was top priority over a lot of other things. And while this movie has the best of action, and it does, it's so good. There was a part where I clapped, where she got like thrown on that one part, because it was just so well shot, and I just like cheered. I was like, oh man, that was beautiful. There were a couple moments like that. So while it has that great, well-shot action, it takes everything else just as seriously, and I like that about it. It really does, and it's great.
I also, I just remembered like a random line that I forgot about until like just now, but I love the line when it's right after they do the whole like pose thing in like the convenience store, and Yelena says something like yeah, Black Widow of the Avengers, every little girl's hero who kills people, like every she said something like that. It was like, yeah, killer that every little girl can look up to. And I also I couldn't believe that they said that, because like that's just so true, because that's a thing that like I just think about kind of all the time in the grand scheme of things too. But like so many things happen in the world, but also in the MCU, and they do talk about it, that are awful, destructive, horrible things, that people die and are awful, and the people who do it return home as heroes. That's an insane thing, right? And I was like, I can't believe Marvel said that.
Yeah.
That's an insane thing to be like, your heroes are also killers.
I agree.
It's true, but it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, I guess this is the last comment I'll make based on that, is the fact that this was as close to me as Scarlett Johansson can get to being her version of what Logan was when he did that, when Hugh Jackman had that moment for himself. This is as close as she can do it while still staying in the Disney confines of the MCU, and I was very impressed by how far they wanted to push the envelope in a lot of spots like that, and they did definitely do a lot of that. And I understand that they want to keep it in the confines, but again, here I am saying this because I feel like I've said it here a couple times already. Disney, please start making R-rated movies, and because this movie, there was a couple spots again that this always bothers me, where it's like, there should be blood there. There should be a little more blood there, and they're not going to do it, and I understand it, but it's on the same hand, I understand the business side of it, but On the same hand, it's like,
Right.
could you imagine an R-rated version of this? It would have been so
good.
Making
with
Curse
this
too. Oh my
with
god.
this direction and this, very well-held movie. Again, I love the movie. It didn't bother me as much as some of their other ones that it wasn't R-rated, but it was just another one of those things where it's like, I just wish they can push it to that place, and they don't. You know? So I have those moments sometimes.
Totally. I totally 100% agree. Also, my one last random
Yeah, go
ahead.
thought, I also just really appreciated that they called out that because in the first Avengers movie, when her and Hawkeye are like shooting arrows and stuff, she's like, "This is just like Budapest," and he goes, "You and I remember Budapest a lot differently." And it was a thing that I remember, that she said Budapest and not Budapest. And then in this movie, they call that out.
Yeah.
They say it's like the hideout
Yeah,
in Budapest.
they
and
did.
He's like, it's Budapest. And
They
she's like,
did.
no, it's Budapest.
That's right.
I just, again, this movie just really was like, it was a movie after my own heart. You know what I mean? It was just everything that I wanted.
I agree.
It was just beautiful. Again, hats off, congratulations to everyone who worked on this movie. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I agree. Loved it.
Loved it. All right, and with that, we are gonna wrap up.
Whoa! We forgot to hit one topic.
Ooh, what else?
I just wanted to ask you before we went.
Yes.
How'd you feel about the face-off swap?
The face-off swap?
The twist.
The part when she did the thing. I liked it. I was shocked.
Me too.
didn't think that was gonna happen.
Me too. Okay.
I genuinely thought that Rachel Weisz had turned on them.
Yeah.
So I liked it.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
I loved it. I thought it was a really good twist. Very unpredictable. They did
and
well.
I like the editing and the way that was written to be intercut with, like, it plays the trick on the audience. You know what I mean?
Very,
and then
very
you go
much.
back to that moment and it explains.
Yeah, they did well. It was
and then
surprising.
The pheromone thing happens, and then it goes back and explains it that she already knows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, it adds to Black Widow's character, because she is kind of a double agent type of thing. That's how we know her. That's how she lived a lot of her life.
Agreed.
So it makes sense in character for her then to kind of pull that on be a double agent almost on the audience.
Yeah,
That's kind of how I took it. Loved it.
I agree. I thought we should bring that up in the spirit of being a spoiler review, because that's a big spoiler moment.
Spoiler.
So anyway, sorry,
Okay.
we can continue to wrap up. Let's do it.
No, yeah. That's all I got. All right. Where can the people find you, Dom? Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts.
No problem. On Twitter at Dom _ Martino _ on Instagram Dom _ Martino _ official, and probably unconscious next week. I'm taking care of some little ones this week, so we'll see where I'm at. But yeah, that's where you can find me for now.
Awesome. And you guys can find me on Instagram. I'm at Samee Ramirez 14, and on Twitter and Stereo at Samee Ramirez. And you guys can find the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Anorax Official. Next week we are doing Space Jam: A Final Legacy.
Wow. We're ready.
We will see.
Let's bring it.
Don't know how I'm gonna feel about that one, but you'll come back next week to find out.
I wish them luck.
Yeah,
wish them luck.
LeBron, all the luck, man. All right. But until then, we will see you guys next time. Have a good one. Night.